This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, it is a few minutes after 6. I'm going to start this presentation. Welcome to the first public involvement meeting for the reconstruction project of North Lake Drive from Newberry Boulevard to Edgewood Avenue. A few reminders that this meeting is being recorded. If you can mute your microphone or speaker, that would be so helpful to minimize background noise. If you have any questions, please turn on your microphone and state your name beforehand so we can record that. And feel free to use the chat box to type questions or leave comments. I've already posted a message in the chat box where you can find a copy of this presentation on our project website, as well as our contact information in case there's any internet connection issues. Before we begin, I would like to recognize Alderman Nick Kovac. If you would like to take a moment to say a few words, Alderman, please feel free to do so.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you to everyone for being here. I actually can't see most people's faces due to the interface I have on my computer, so I'll just trust there's people out there. How many are signed up, Megan?
So far, we have 36 people.
36 people, okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. This is, I've been doing a lot ever since March. I've been doing almost all my meetings this way, but this is the first time I've done one that's sort of the equivalent of a neighborhood meeting, so it's a new experience for me. Megan, who's with the Department of Public Works in the city of Milwaukee, is hosting the meeting. I'm happy to be here as well. This is being done as part of the State Department of Transportation requirements because they are funding this proposed reconstruction. I'm sure Megan will get into all those details, or Sam and David may as well. So I won't try to take over their presentation. I'll just say that we're grateful to have the state willing to invest in the city and badly needed infrastructure repair work. I've already spoken to a number of people who live near or use Lake Drive very often about some of their ideas. So I'm already aware, I think, of some of the feedback we're going to get tonight. It's well known that we've got a strong pedestrian, bicycle, traffic calming safety for everyone, and pedestrians, public transit users. We're trying to improve safety for everyone. That's one of the overall citywide goals. And I hope that whatever we end up doing here on Lake Drive is consistent with advancing those goals. We're going through a similar process on Humboldt in River West now, where we're further along. But this, as it's been explained to me, this is the beginning of a long engineering process that the state mandates as part of its funding. And so I will be looking forward to getting feedback from all of our neighbors on the east side and beyond about what kind of street they'd like to see, because we will be making, when we design this road and decide where to put the parking and the bike lanes and the travel lanes for cars and how pedestrians will cross and all that, we'll be making a decision for several generations from now. This road should last a long time. So I'm glad we're being thorough about it. I look forward to all the public feedback we get tonight. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Alderman. Again, thank you everyone who has signed in or called in. I know this is very different than what we are used to. Usually we would have a public meeting. We all would much rather be in person to discuss this important matter. So I do appreciate your understanding as we move towards this virtual format. Just a quick outline of this presentation. We're going to introduce the project staff, provide a short overview, and review the existing conditions out there, lay out the project schedule so you are informed. And most importantly, we want to spend majority of the time providing or listening and hearing your concerns and answering questions.
Yes, yes. Excuse me, I already told you.
So our key project staff, with us, we have Christine Hanna. She's the Wisconsin Department of Transportation Project Manager, who is overseeing this project from scoping through construction. Samuel Medine, who will be presenting shortly, is the project manager for the city of Milwaukee. He's managing this project through the design phase. And his colleague, Assad Khan, is the project engineer leading the design process, gathering reports. Yours truly, I'm Megan O'Connor. I serve as a project liaison. Feel free to reach out to me before and during construction with any of your questions or concerns. So the purpose of this meeting is to introduce the reconstruction project, but most importantly, hear from you. Our goals for this project is to upgrade pavement conditions, manage safe driving speeds, better organize all modes of traffic, improve visibility, and make sure that traveling is safe and comfortable for everyone. At this time, I will ask Samuel to take the lead and discuss the project. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samuel Medin, City of Milwaukee Major Projects. I am the project manager for this project. So I will go through some project-related information that I put together. Again, this is North Lake Drive, State Connecting Highway 32. The limits are East Newberry Boulevard and East Edgewood Avenue on the north side. This is a total of 85.85 miles long project. This project is, at this point, the only thing that we know is that it would be a reconstruction. What we mean by that is that the existing pavement, curb and gutter, including the driveway approaches, will be removed and replaced. That is,
but let me just see if I can fix that.
okay. As part of this pavement replacement project, we also upgrade
It's not
street lighting,
under my control.
drainage structures, and traffic signs. And then we have one major traffic signalized intersection, as you all are aware of, at Kenwood and Lake Drive. That is a big intersection with signal that would be part of this improvement project. And then drainage structures will be upgraded, like inlets will be replaced. Most of them at the a very similar location to where they are now. Curb line changes, the location of this inlet location will be changing as well. And then the lateral connection of the inlets to the main sewer line will be replaced as well. And then we also consider enhancing, adding bike accommodations, and then enhancing pedestrian facilities within the project limits. All curb ramps will be designed to be ADA compliant. The next topic that I will be talking about is the funding. So 75% of the preliminary engineering or design costs will be funded by Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and 25% of that cost will be borne by the city of Milwaukee, local share. Construction cost of the the construction cost project is about $5 to $6 million, and out of that, roughly about 90% of the cost will be again paid by the state, and 10% of the cost will be covered by the city. This percentage breakdown would be affected by the percent of parking that we allow
Look, I can't hear
within the facility. So if we allow parking from beginning to end of the project, the city share would go higher. And then if we say zero parking, for example, 100% of the payment cost will be borne by the DOT. Next slide. As we all know, this project is located within the historic water tower neighborhoods. So there are quite a lot of historical buildings and landmarks located within the project limits and nearby. We hired UWM to be our historical consultants. There is with that required historic and archaeological analysis to be conducted as part of this project. So UWM will be our consultant in doing that. And then the improvement in our construction project, the impacts that it would result will be analyzed to this historic neighborhoods. And then there are a total of about 10 intersections within the project limits. Some of our T intersections, and the remaining are four-way intersections, although
What are you doing by making this smaller, and it's not letting me make it smaller?
okay, we also apply WSDOT's facility development manual as the primary source of design guidelines, as well as the city of Milwaukee complete streets policy will be used greatly. Again, there is a county park located on the southern half of on the east side of the southern limits of the project. We'll be coordinating with Milwaukee County as part of this project. The posted speed limit for this project is 30 miles per hour. And then the average daily traffic range between 6,000 to about 19,000. And then the biggest difference comes, we can take a look at this project in two halves. The first half will be from Newberry to Kenwood. That portion of the project carries about 6,100 ADT, but Kenwood to Edgewood, currently we have 4 driving lanes depending on the peak hour traffic, and then that is the portion that carries 19,000. As you are all aware, a lot of people choose this route as a scenic route to coming from the Lake Drive, going to Lake Michigan side of the city, and then even going to the downtown area. People are coming to Lake Drive and then use the Lincoln Memorial Drive, and then south of Kenwood Avenue.
Hey, Sam, I hate to interrupt you. This is Christine. I don't know if it's you or Megan, but there is a comment in the chat section that the screen is not fully enlarged, so they cannot see it clear. So let's make sure that it is clear.
So each individual can set the screen on either the person speaking or the presentation. So that's each individual person has to select that. option. Thank you, Christine.
Okay. The first big intersection of the project limit is at Newberry. That's what you see on the screen now. We have a big, Newberry is a big boulevard, and then I received several emails already from nearby residents on what to do on that intersection. And then today too, I will be expecting some additional comments about that intersection. But at this point, I would like to identify that as being a big intersection in there. Also, it continues to go east through the parks to be connected to Lincoln Memorial through that intersection. Okay, and then can I have the slide number 9, Megan?
Yes. Give me 1 second. I apologize. Is this slide?
The one
9?
before. The one before. Yes, yeah. This is a typical section for the segment of Lake Drive between Newberry and Kenwood. Currently, it is 44 feet wide, curb to curb. And on the east side is Lake Park, the county park. And on the west side, it's residential neighborhoods. It allows 2 parking lanes and 2 driving lanes for the roadway. This roadway, originally it was constructed in 1916. This is by far, it's almost on an over 100 years old base. We did a resurfacing job with asphalt twice. And then the last one was in 1983. As you can all witnessing, it's getting pretty bad. The concrete underneath the asphalt is probably is through its service life. Okay, next slide. And this is overview of that segment. It shows Locust Street on top, where Milwaukee, there is a kind of loop in there on the east side where the Milwaukee County bus make a turn for its route. And then you also see a Newberry intersection on the south end of it. This is Kenwood, and what you see on the screen now is Kenwood and Lake Drive intersection. Again, you can see several movements are taking place at this intersection. It's pretty busy intersection, especially in the summertime, where people take this route as their preferred scenic travel pattern. So next slide. The next slide is showing approaching this intersection from the north, heading south. So we have 2 left turn lanes going to Lincoln Memorial, and then we have 2 driving lanes going north, once on Lake Drive. And then this is this portion of the roadway was originally constructed in 1952 and repaved with asphalt surfacing in 1995. Pavement is now, it's getting in bad shape. The asphalt is peeling all the time. It's a continuous maintenance work that it requires every year. Okay, the next segment shows once we clear the intersection of Kenwood, 1 block north of the intersection, it turns into a 4-lane highway. We have 2 driving and 2 parking lanes. Again, the parking lane will be used for the driving lane, depending on the rush hour traffic. And then again, it was originally constructed in 1952 and repaved with asphalt surfacing in 1995, very similar to the segment before this one. And then this is the southern end of the north end of the project limits, which is Edgewood. Also happens to be the city of Milwaukee limits. North of there is Shorewood. You can see pictures from different angles of this intersection. Going north, most of you are aware that it's being resurfaced recently, maybe last year, I believe, by Shorewood and DOT, I believe. This slide that you're taking a look at is the project schedule. Today, the first PIM is in progress, July 15. Between now and then our second PIM meeting that we're thinking about is early 2021, around March, I would say. We will take the public input that we're gathering now through emails and other means. And also DOT will be conducting a traffic report for the entire project limits. Between the traffic report, public input, we try to come up with up to 2, 3, 4, depending on issues, alternative alignments. And when we come back in 2021, early 2021, we will be sharing that with you. We discuss several alternative alignments that will be coming up by then. In 2022, by then we have the preferred alternative. Also, the 60% design phase. By that time, hopefully, the footprint of the proposed alignment will be set. And then that is the time that we submit to the DOT what we call a design study report, which would be very popular and powerful document that will be submitted to the DOT and then seek approval. And then once we get to the 60%, it is a matter of finalizing things. Also, by 60%, another big document that we plan on completing would be the environmental document. That is why it looks like pretty generous when it comes to time, but there's a lot of paperwork and reports to be completed in between. And then once the 60% plan is submitted, we are also planning to have a third public informational meeting. So you will have at least two more meetings with the city and DOT to discuss this project. So
Samuel, let me take over just to kind of highlight what the project schedule means to residents. So currently we're in the planning stage, and during the planning stage we gather community feedback, experience to help define our design options. So during this time, we're going to collect traffic and crash data. What we want you to tell us is what's currently working and not working out there. What makes sense for historic water tower neighborhood, for your community? How do you get around, and where are you going? These feedback, any safety concerns will help us put together design options. So that's where we are right now. We'll move into the design stage, and that's where we'll have the second community meeting, February 2021, you can expect. At that point, we'll provide the traffic data that we collected, and we'll show some options of design plans based on your feedback and initial design work. So during that point, we want you to tell us how the proposed designs work for you. Did we capture what the community wanted? And if we're missing anything that needs to be evaluated before we submit the final plans. So by the time of final plans, we'll hold a third community meeting, and you can expect that to be late 2022. At that meeting, we'll show the final plans. Early 2024, we will schedule a pre-construction meeting. That's when you will meet the contractor that was awarded the bid, as well as the construction supervisor. We will specifically outline construction details such as traffic control, staging, and address any concerns that you may have. So at that point, that's when we want to hear from you on how construction will affect your ability to, let's say, load and unload, your landscaping services, delivery services. If your neighborhood has community events that we need to help coordinate, that would be helpful information at that time. So just a few things before we open up the questions. To stay involved, you can request information or share comments or concerns directly with Samuel. His contact information is listed on the screen. And as your project liaison, I would be happy to add you to my email list to send any future project updates. So please feel free to reach out to me to sign up. To stay connected with the city, as well as this project specifically, we have a website, and that is milwaukee.gov/DPW/Lake Drive. That will specifically have this presentation and information that we have so far on this project. You can also find DPW on Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. And we try to utilize all three of those social media accounts to keep residents informed. So at this time, we'll open up to questions and comments. I know this is a little bit difficult with so many people online, but let's just try to have one person speak at a time. So feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, so
Hi, Robert.
hi, Megan. Interesting information. Just a comment more than a question at this point, or a couple of comments. Was delighted to see the lane marking enhancements that were taking place the last day or two. Hoping that may address one of the issues we have. We are at the corner of Hampshire and Lake. We're on the southeast corner of Hampshire and Lake. So we get the full brunt of the cars that are northbound coming off of Lincoln Memorial Drive, and they're hitting maximum Mach speed acceleration about when they get to our, even with our house. And besides the speed hazard, the noise from loud vehicles, both motorcycles and cars, can be a challenge at times. So glad to see those enhancements, glad to see the installation of the bike lane, and hopefully taking that down to a merge lane to single lane traffic going north from this point will help control the speed. The second comment I have relative to this intersection is something that I have been in touch with, trying to get in touch with the city about for 2 or 3 years now since we moved in, and have never gotten a call back. But for pedestrians, we are big neighborhood walkers. For pedestrians, if we are crossing west to east at Kenwood, from the northwest corner to the northeast corner, the walk light, man, it says you have 17 or 18 seconds to cross, or no, it's longer than that. But we get about halfway across, it will show that we still have 11 seconds crossing to the east. The green arrow turns right, and if those cars aren't watching, man, sometimes they about hit us because they pay no attention to who's in the crosswalk. And so if there's a way to hold the green arrow until the walking time is finished, it would be a tremendous help, and that's something that can be addressed right now.
Thank you, Robert. We do have traffic engineer Scott Reinbacher here, so I'm sure he noted that, and we can follow up with you on that matter.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, can you state your name, please?
James Paloff.
Hi, James.
Yeah, we're at the intersection of Locust, but we're up on Marietta, so we're a block away. I have two questions, one statement and a question. Is it possible to validate that we will not have the bright white street lights? I know you're moving away from sodium vapor, but having amber lights and toned down street lights really add to the feeling of the neighborhood. I feel like when I keep seeing the extremely bright white LED street lights, it really ruins the evening walks for me and my wife. So that's a comment. I know that it's technically possible for us to look at warmer lighting for the street lights. That's one thing. The other thing is I might have missed it or not, but is anything happening on the Locust turnaround? Is there going to be any widening of the street into Lake Park? I saw that we were at 44 feet. Is that 44 feet an increase from what it currently is? So that's my statement and that's my question.
Okay, Samuel, do you want to address the roundabout at Locust?
Sure, yeah. And then that roundabout is located in the county park. We'll have to.
Let's be clear, it's not a roundabout, right?
You're right.
Well,
That's not the right term, but yeah, I'm not
yeah,
an
well, I mean, it is a loop that I believe the county transit buses are using that to make a U-turn and then go back heading west. As far as the roadway is concerned, changing, currently it's 44 foot wide. This is at the very early stages of the design phase. After getting the feedback and then analyzing the traffic report, that is something we would incline to determine on a later time. So we don't have that information about any of the proposed curb line. So
because we would prefer that not to change. We like the layout of it. Is it increasing in breadth? It's 44 feet larger than it currently is.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration.
No, I'm asking you a question. Are you increasing the width of the road?
At this point, we don't know. I don't have that information, and we haven't decided anything at this point. This is
okay.
The very first meeting, pre-30%. We don't even know anything at this point. So we will have to wait between now and the completion of the 30%. Before even that, we will come up with several alternative solutions based on a meeting like tonight, feedback from the public, as well as the traffic report. So we will have numerous opportunities to talk about issues, whether roadway is going to be widened or narrowed or any of those revision and changes.
44 feet is the current width from Newberry to Kenwood. The current width.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question.
Okay, can you give your name, please?
Phyllis Brostoff. We're on the 3400 block of Lake. Will this include allowing for the left turn signal when you're going, when you're on Kenwood, going east, to allow a left turn onto Lake Drive? You understand my question?
Yes, I do. Does someone from DPW want to address that, whether that's Scott or Samuel?
Yes, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for attending, everyone. This is Scott Reinbacher with DPW Traffic Engineering. I did see someone else ask this same question in the chat. And yes, the plan is to allow that eastbound left turn movement from eastbound Kenwood Boulevard onto northbound Lake Drive. This actually does kind of intertwine with the concerns for the north crosswalk experience, crossing the north leg of this intersection. Long story short, we're actually in the process right now of reconfiguring the traffic signal infrastructure at this intersection. It sounds like a pretty simple thing to do, but we actually do need to do some construction for our infrastructure out there, which we currently have scheduled for this fall. But yes, the plan is to allow that turning movement at this intersection, then also address the crosswalk light with the green right turn arrows for the northwest bound movement at the intersection as well. So we do hope to clean some of this up this fall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
I have a question about expected traffic flow. With a single lane, if a car is headed southbound, for example, and making a left turn to the east into a residence or into Newport Court or the park, is it expected that traffic behind that car will simply stop and wait, or that it will use the bike lane and parking lane to get around them? Same thing going north if a car is making a left turn, because already going north, when cars are turning onto Hampshire or Hartford, there's a huge traffic backup. And, cars swerving around these turning cars. So I'm concerned that that's going to get even worse.
Thank you. Is that Anne?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, Anne. We do have a complete streets policy in place. James, if you can address kind of some of the measures we do to reduce passing on the right, protection of pedestrians in those kind of situations, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you, James. Thank you.
Thank you. James here, pedestrian bicycle coordinator in our multimodal unit. If you could humor me, I missed the first part of the question there. Was it had to do with passing on the right? I apologize.
So the concern is if we narrow it to a single lane of traffic, if that car is making a turning movement, would the vehicles behind that car go into the bike lane, try to pass on the right to just continue the flow?
Got you. Yeah, thank you. So in some locations, we have it dashed at that location so that a vehicle could turn around the turning vehicle around the right, but in other locations, it is expected, and usually the legal operation is to wait for the turning vehicle. There are other options in a more concrete situation where we can actually put a curb extension or something that prevents a vehicle from passing on the right there. With the current restriking project that you're seeing being installed this week, we didn't, that wasn't included in the scope of that project, but it certainly would be worth considering in alternatives as part of the reconstruction project. But there are some temporary treatments that we could do in the interim. We would just need to find some additional funding to do that. If you look at North 27th Street between Wells Street and State Street, or South 13th Street between Oklahoma and Harrison, I need to remember the limits there. We recently put in some paint and post curb extensions where we use pavement markings and those flexible posts that you see in other locations in the city to simulate that same effect of a concrete curb. I hope that helps. Let me know if not.
Thank you,
I guess
James.
I'm just concerned about the traffic backup. I mean, the traffic is, almost nonstop during rush hour with 2 lanes. And when it's down to 1 lane, it just seems, and people are turning, it just seems like it's potential for real backup and frustration for people.
Yep, and we'll do a
Absolutely.
traffic report.
Could I comment to that?
Yes.
Sandra McSweeney. I live on Edgewood and Lake Drive, and the very same questions were asked, what is it, about 2 years ago in Sherwood, and people had the same concerns. I live in Milwaukee, I work in Sherwood, I drive that stretch 4 times a day at minimum. People mostly wait 90% of the time. It has made a sane way of driving for people. Once in a while, someone speeds around the right and gets a little bent out of shape. But if we give it time, I think people will just kind of adjust. And it has worked beautifully between Edgewood and Capitol Drive. So I think we just need some time to adjust and see what happens.
Thank you for that feedback.
Megan, Sam, can I suggest that you go through the questions in the chat box?
Yes.
Okay.
So let me open up the chat box. Just give me a second. Joe is asking if the proposed renovation stopping at Newberry or is extending south to Park Place. Park Place is regarding the restriping project, so that is separate from this reconstruction project.
Hi, this is Joe. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if the proposed renovation goes through, you would have renovated road on Lake Drive south of Park Place that would be redone, and then you would have road north of Newberry that would be redone, but you'd have one block that would essentially not be redone between Park Place and Newberry. Could you just explain the reason for that decision, if that is the decision? And also, and I apologize for the confusion, because I thought that on the original flyer for this call, it said that things were extending south to Park Place.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah, again, earlier I was talking about the payment, the existing payment history, and if you look at the roadway now, starting from Newberry going north is where it begins, the asphalt pavement, and then underneath it is that 100-year-old concrete pavement. If you go south of Newberry, Park to Newberry, it is a concrete pavement in decent shape at this point. That could be resurfaced, and then, but at this point, condition-wise, it's in a very decent shape, unlike the segment going north of Newberry. So that's why the limit was selected at Newberry. It was done at different times.
Our next question is from Rebecca. Will parking provide accessible on-street parking spaces? Rebecca, if you can explain if you mean designated parking spots or signage, or if you can just explain more about what that means.
Sorry about that. Had to undo my mic. I'm referring to I believe there are some areas where there's going to be on-street parking. I don't know if there will be spaces provided for or marked, and if they are to be marked, will they include accessible parking spaces where they're marked?
Right. Samuel,
basically, I'm asking if that will be considered.
I'm not too clear about the question. First of all, are you talking about the area south of Kenwood?
Yes.
Well, I mean, currently the parking is allowed on both sides of the road, and accessible or accessible, I don't know.
Rebecca, we'll review and follow up with you on that.
Sure,
And
it's something for further down the road to consider is where,
yes,
so we can talk later.
I think that's the case, that it's going to be probably a discussion at a future meeting. And then along with your second question about sidewalks on the east side of Lake Drive, north of Newberry, I don't know, Samuel, if there's already been discussion on that?
Yeah, the way we looked at it, there is a meandering sidewalk going through the park. Again, people who ride their bike or jog use that as a sidewalk. So primarily, residents are using the west side parking for the most part. That is the county park, and then there is always, there is also an existing asphalt sidewalk, but further east into the park. So at this point, we haven't looked at that closely, but I don't believe that would be a situation where we would like to put sidewalk adjacent to the curbside like you see it on the west side. But we can take a look at it, work with the county, see if there are any viable need for that. And then if that is the case, then we will consider putting sidewalk just like, adjacent to the curb. And that would be future discussion point.
Helen, I'm just going through the chat, and I think some of the questions have already been addressed. Helen Dixon had a question about, will there always be one lane open during construction? So we will discuss that during the third community meeting. But generally, yes, we do try to maintain some flow of traffic during construction. Does anyone else have any questions?
I do. Gloria Parker.
Hi, Laura.
We live on Lake Drive just south of Kenwood. And if you walk south, for example, to Linwood or to Low, and then you want to cross into Lake Park, even though there are signs up that say, pedestrians have the right of way, the cars don't stop. So I was just wondering if there's any possibility that some sort of signal could be put up where people can press a button and then there's a yellow flashing light. They have that in Whitefish Bay on Lake Drive. So it might slow the traffic down a little bit also.
Thank you. Scott, would you like to address the decision when a flashing beacon is installed and how that's considered?
Yeah, sure. So requests similar to this, I think we should definitely take a good look at them, perhaps in the design process here. We do receive a lot of requests citywide for the flashing signage, things like that, and it's certainly one of the tools in our toolbox that we can use to draw additional attention to motorists, just to give that warning that there's a pedestrian crossing. Other things that we do, and actually we're excited to be doing right now over the next week, is with the pavement marking improvements that are taking place. We're also doing other things such as narrowing the motor vehicle lanes to reduce the distance that pedestrians need to cross. We're also adding bike lanes over the next week and also installing high visibility pavement markings as well to draw additional attention to the crosswalk and the need for motorists to yield to pedestrians who are legally crossing. Yes, the flashing beacons and signage, we can certainly take a look at that throughout the project limits, especially with the major pedestrian generators adjacent to Lake Drive.
Thank you.
And Megan, I'll just jump in to say that I have heard like the request that Gloria just made for a better crossing into the park at Linwood. I have heard that request a few times. I've heard the same request at Newberry many, many times. And then we've had some meetings with WITS and the Hefter Center about crossing north of Kenwood. So there's a few spots where a flashing beacon is one option, a bump out to narrow the crossings another, better crosswalks markings another. I don't know, James, do you want to comment on all the different tools in our toolbox for pedestrian crossings and which work best where?
Absolutely. Thank you for chiming in. I don't think I'd say it better myself, to be honest. I think you kind of hit the highlights for curb extensions, potentially other kind of pedestrian islands, depending on the configuration, if potentially turn lanes were installed at any of those intersections. But in our opinion, in multimodal unit, any and all of those should be considered as part of alternatives for the reconstruction.
Rebecca, as the ADA coordinator, did you want to chime in on that as well?
Yes. Last week at a meeting with WSDOT, they had mentioned as far as signaling for certain intersections that they would consider those if WSDOT hears from those. So that's something to consider, to let WSDOT be aware of those concerns as well.
Thank you. Anything else that anyone wants to chime in of concerns? What is working? What you do like out there? If not, that would conclude our presentation. We are here till 8 p.m. So if you have a question that comes to your mind, feel free to log back in. We'll be here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel free to play elevator music here.
Yeah. Hey, just one quick question.
Yes.
Samuel. Yeah, I want to wait for everybody to talk, but did you guys address? I didn't hear anybody address the type of lighting that we have going on the city streets lately. Has there been other people that have raised that concern?
With the bright light?
Yeah, and it's not specifically only the bright white or bright light, it's white light versus an amber light.
Yeah, James, this is Scott Reinbacher with Traffic Engineering. Although there is not a representative from our street lighting department here at this meeting today, I might be able to kind of help answer that question. So in recent times, the city has been moving towards the installation of LED street lighting fixtures at certain locations throughout the city, just because there is a significant energy savings with the installation of the LEDs, rather than the amber colored high pressured sodium lenses that we've seen throughout the city for a long time. I can certainly relay these concerns to our street lighting designers. I don't know if that's something that if you live on the street, if there's a particular area of the project that you're concerned about.
I just think all over the city. I'm an EE, so I kind of know a lot about lighting too, and there's lots of options to go to. It seems like the city is rushing to save money with no concept of the lumen output or the increase. They think, oh wow, more lumens, we're going to go skyrocket, and also to the harsh shadowing effects that are coming off due to the non-lensed sodium vapor. They had a thicker glass Fresnel lens on it, I believe. Fresnel lens on it, essentially.
Sure.
Right, and so it was a softer, a more reflective lighting, and for I understand the city would be motivated by cost savings for the lighting, especially when it's a super slam dunk. I mean, just replacing the street lights themselves, I'm sure, saves money just within the first year of the electric bill you get out of sodium vapor. So
Sure.
it makes sense almost not to do it, but it seems to me, and not to be overly harsh, but I will, that they just there hasn't been a lot of foresight into what is actually good for the citizens to be staring outside their bedroom windows night after night. And especially in this type of a district, I'd like to make sure that we have something that keeps the charm of the area rather than lighting it up like Walmart. So
yeah, and we do view street lighting as a serious quality of life issue. So we're certainly going to try and avoid, sending that unnecessary, lighting into your second floor bedroom window when you're trying to sleep. I can say our designers, they try to use good pole spacing policies, and I'm sure that they'll be taking that into consideration on this project and in other areas throughout the city. We definitely want to find a good product that's going to keep some of that noise or light pollution, as we call it, out of your window at night.
We also have a house in Lake Geneva, so we're right next to Yerkes Observatory. So I know that there are certain cities that actually make an effort to determine what type of light pollution is put up into the air. And when I look at all of the LED, I don't want to, I'm sure they think about the pole spacing, but besides what they can order online or what that they get as a discount, I don't think that they look very much at the at the focusing or the lensing or the shading that's being put on these lights. Because I've been in other, like I said, Lake Geneva's, they lifted the Yerkes band, the light pollution Yerkes band from Lake Geneva area maybe 7 years ago, but you can still see remnants all over the Lake Geneva area where they really have thought about how, what is the type of light pollution going on. And I'd like to have somebody just think about it a little more in depth rather than thinking it's an upcharge in our tax bill to have special wacky lights. I just want somebody to choose the appropriate light. I don't want to be, we don't need to be taxed even more for somebody making a correct decision. Because right now it looks to me like everyone's making wrong decision. Because Scott, I don't think they are putting any shading on any of these LED lights that I see around. They're basically flat LED lights that have no type of no type of directional besides 180 degrees. The other 180 going up to the sky is dark, but 180 all around them is lit.
Sure, and I'll relay these concerns to our street lighting designers here because it is a serious issue, and especially because we are upgrading our street lighting facilities citywide. Unfortunately, our infrastructure is very outdated here in Milwaukee. We still have mostly series circuits. We're actively using cables, underground cabling that's 80, 100 years old. It's,
Well, that's perfectly fine because the amperage rating that you guys needed previously for the old lights, the current carrying capacity you needed so dwarfs the amount of current you need of the LEDs. The wiring really shouldn't be an issue. You could go for series forever, besides a random hit. But there's no reason to. I understand pole updates and the actual lights themselves, but the actual wiring infrastructure, copper lasts forever. But as far as ampacity, you guys would be making money by ripping the copper out of the ground and recycling it if you're really upgrading all of the copper. I would assume that the copper that's currently there is going to be replaced with some type of aluminum wire. I guess I just would like to have something, and I don't want to be the one resident that causes us all to get a higher bill because we put some super stupid LED amber, lighting controlled. Somebody just needs to make better decisions for the city as a whole, because right now it's not being met, in my opinion. So I appreciate you listening to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. Well, I got a little unit coming downstairs, so I got to go talk to him now. So, thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, James.
And seriously, lean on him a little bit to start making good decisions, because right now it's the quality of life everywhere they put those LEDs is not nice. So thank you very much for your time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to be right back. I'm going to fill my water glass.